My mom told me that when she was young, she was relatively young. She hadn't been married that long. She had this happened when she had uh, Charles and my mother and Lois were the only two kids she had. I think. No, she had Ralph too. Ralph was the baby in this story. Okay, they lived in a one-room cabin on the other side of Hartwell, Georgia. And she said that her sister-in-law had previously lived in this house, and that she hadn't told her anything, so she was not predisposed to believe something that wasn't necessarily there, or whatever. So anyway, my mom said that one night she hadn't been feeling good, and Charles was asleep. My papa was asleep in one bed, and in the other bed was her, and my mom was sleeping in my mama. And I forget exactly what their ages were. I think Charles was probably like 5 or 6, and my mother might have been like 4 years old. And then there was, I think, the baby, which was Ralph. And he was like, I guess, in a little baby bed or something. And so that night, they had a fire. And I think it was in the fall of the year, she said. They had a fire. It was late fall. They had a fire in the fireplace, and it was just a one-room cabin like. She told me exactly the detail of everything and how it was laid out. So it had a little room, an extra room built onto it. And that room was the kitchen, sort of, in the back. But I think they ate and slept in all that one room. But the kitchen was like a little kitchenette kind of thing in the back, towards the back of the house. And that's where the back door was. And the front door, of course, was in the front of the house. They had the big chimney, the fireplace. She said it was a big fireplace. It wasn't like a Mill Hill fireplace. And they were like that. You can't even find gas logs or them things. But this was a big old country fireplace. And said the fire was low that night. It had been burned down, I guess. And they were all on quilts. It was cold, so that's when it was late in the year, late fall of the year. And said that she had not been feeling good, and I don't think my mother had been feeling good. Or either it was her or the baby had been not feeling good, whatever the deal was. Anyway, she said, I was laying there, I was not asleep. She said, I can tell you without doubt I was not asleep. Because I was laying there, I think she had been praying. She said she would get in bed and pray till she fell asleep. Said, I had been praying and got through my prayers, and I was just laying there thinking, said, I was not asleep. The lamp next to the bed, the lamp was a kerosene lamp, was turned way down. But the light, it was still kind of lit in the room with the fireplace and that. It was still, you could see it in the room. Said, she was just laying there when she noticed a corner of her eye movement coming from this side of the house where the fireplace, I think, was probably towards the corner of the room. And this was like back towards where the front door was. So anyway, their beds were like this and this. There were two beds. And I think maybe the baby was in the middle. I remember her saying that. So anyway, so she noticed this movement in the corner of her eye. She said, I just didn't even get up. I just kind of turned and looked my head towards it, And that's when she saw it. She cited this. She said what it basically was a grayish, whitish colored shadow-like thing. And said it was no more than 3 foot, and it come by the foot of her bed very slowly, by the fireplace. And she said it was solid looking to her.
Didn't she say it had the form of a person?
She said it had an outline but it wasn't any very distinctive the way she described it as being arms and legs and all. She said I really couldn't do that, but it was solid. The reason she said that is she could not see the fire through it. Because it passed the fireplace and down the foot of her bed. She said, did not think of a ghost or anything like that. It just, and by the way, the term ghost means spirit. So when you say that, you could mean other things besides human time ghost. She said, I did not even think about it. She said, that was the furthest thing from my mind. She said, what popped in my mind was that Charles had got up.
Yeah, I remember her saying
And said Charles had got up and was walking. So that's what I thought. And I guess, kids back in those days, they had like little nightgowns, And that's what made her think of this, the way it was, shaped. She said she saw it. She watched it go all the way down. And I don't think she could see Charles, because she could probably see Papa, but not Charles on the other side of it. That's why she was thinking that, well, what's Charles doing? Was he sleepwalking or what? I guess that, being a mother, that came to mind, And he started, she said he went all the way across the room and went into the kitchen and it was gone. It went out of sight. She said, well, I immediately turned to the side, turned the lamp up, got up with the lamp, got up and walked over there. That's when I seen Charles laying in the bed. I knew it wasn't him. She said, I went to the all the way and looked at in every corner of the house. There was nothing there. Back door was locked. Everything was where it should be. She said, it didn't scare me. She said, it didn't scare me. So the fact was, God, I jumped in the bed and covered my head up. She said, it didn't scare her, but she just wondered, what was that? What was that? So it didn't bother her then, she said. Later on, when she got to thinking about it, it did bother her. It did kind of, I guess. And that's only human, because a lot of times with something like that, to me, I'm that way. I don't, at that minute, I'm not instantly shocked, like throwing cold water on me or something that way. Usually, sometimes when something like that happens, it hits me later on. What was that? And I can understand. That's who I take after, probably. Anyway, she said the next day she told David about it. She just finally went and lay back down, turned the light back down, and went to sleep. And the next day she said something to Papa about it. But then she said something, she went to her sister-in-law, and she said, look, I saw something the other night in that house. And she said, I just want to know if you have. And she said, yeah, Couture, I have seen. She said, I have seen, they call her Tour. Said, I have seen something in the house, but I just didn't want to say anything to you about it because we want to move in it. And she said, but I have seen something, but she never told her what it was. But they both saw, I think basically, well, you would type as I come to find out later on, in later years, as a manifestation of a demonic entity.
Now, Wayne, when I heard that story, Mama said it went up the fireplace.
Well, it went by the fireplace, but it didn't disappear up the fireplace. That's why she said it went by the fireplace, and I asked her, could you see the fireplace through it? Could you see the fire? She said, no, I don't remember. Said it was solid looking to me. But it went on in the other room, and that's why she thought, well, what's Charles up, and what's he doing? What's he up to, or something? Being